Good morning again, everybody. I feel like we said that just a few days ago, maybe 5 days ago or so, when we were in Houston, Texas. But it is good to be back with you here. We were contemplating doing a recorded show, and then JB's like, "We're doing it live again. We're doing it live." He likes this. Yes, sir. So, for cold open, I thought maybe it would be a good time to sort of, we don't get to hang out together very much or at the same game or, share experiences like we did this past weekend that often. What were some of your highlights from the Stagg Bowl weekend or the game itself? I mean, kind of give the rundown of what you liked from this whole situation.
Well, as much fun it was to do a kind of a pregame show at Salem, it was a lot more fun to just go to a bar and hang out with some fans. We got to catch up with some people that we interact with on Twitter during the season and the off season and just sort of shoot the breeze. We ran into Ethan Greenfield, which was cool. We got to see his giant national championship rings on his finger and kind of, chat about. I thought that sort of relaxed sort of pregame atmosphere was nice. I'm glad we did the pregame show, but when I listened back to it, all of our worries and prognostications about the weather ended up being, no big deal. The rain didn't really affect the field.
We got
wind.
wind.
Didn't really. Yeah, we got wind. It was cold at the end, but it certainly didn't impact the game in ways that we thought it might. And we both predicted about a 10-point win for the Cardinals. It ended up being 16. And ironically, as I said before, the tail of the tape said it would be 42-27. It was pretty close. should have predicted that. But it was just great to see some familiar faces like JJ, like JP, Pat, Keith, Greg, Tamara, who I met for the first time. She's lovely. And, obviously Pat's brother shooting on the sidelines with his camera, taking
Ryan,
a million pictures a minute.
Yep.
Ryan. So it felt like sort of that penultimate moment. That stadium was great. I thought the crowd, even though it was maybe only a couple of thousand people, was really into the game, and it felt like there were more people there than there actually were. And it was a great football game. I mean, couldn't ask for more.
They were right on the field. I mean, I walked by and, there were interactions easily, whereas, Salem was kind of like way up there, but you'd still be able to talk to if you really looked up. I mean, they were at basically our level, maybe slightly higher as we were walking
Absolutely.
back and forth. Somebody had dropped something, asked me to grab it for them, type of thing, right there to hand it right back to them, type thing, between the barricade. So it was, fan base was very close. I'm not sure how those seats were for seeing that sideline, obviously. So I don't know if that's the best view for a football game. Remember, that's a soccer pitch normally. And so that wouldn't be normally how you would build a football stadium scenario. But still, I think it worked. I wish they had more lines on the sidelines, too, to sort of help. The referees were like being flanked by photographers in the end zone area, which is never supposed to happen. So I was trying to get people to help the referees not get into a sea of a problem, because if they had to bail out, where do they go at that point? But one of my favorite parts, too, was, we worked with a couple of guys that we'd said from the third division, Zach Vargas and Riley Conley, who was our voiceover for the Gallardi video. And they wanted to get some tutelage, basically, on, how to be on a sideline like that and do the media work and whatnot. And, we're hoping that little by little we're going to get some youth involved, as you had said elsewhere, in this whole thing, so that we can have continuity with our show, with all shows, with all coverage, basically, down the line. Sure, Kobe over on D-Wind Rejects does a good job, and, Dingo Talk, and, others out there that are aspiring to do it. But, here's some really young guys still in college that want to start getting that feel for it, and not every school's going to be conducive to that necessarily, so we help give them some on-the-fly training and maybe, hopefully, give them some, how to do it, how not to do it type of training as well, because we see all kinds of things out there in social media and the media that we kind of cringe at sometimes. I get it, but our job, our role, we feel, as the elder statesman now, is to sort of teach as much as anything else. So that was fun to be able to hang out with those guys, grab some bites to eat, and show them the ropes at the Stagg Bowl itself. So appreciate their assistance. Appreciate all of you and your viewership throughout the season. This is the final season 17 show for now, because we will have a postseason show at some point. Probably in your kitchen is the way it normally works, but who knows? But JB, I think it's time to talk about the Stagg Bowl. I think it's time to talk about our players and our Coach of the Year. We've got a lot coming at you in this show. So here we are. It is season 17 of In the Huddle. So, you know what, JB? Yeah, absolutely. And we won't hear it for a few months here, or maybe a month or so, a month and a half, give or take. But, it's been a fun season. 40 shows this will make at this point, from the ECAC Bowl announcements to our first Bracket Sunday show instead of a Selection Sunday show, we called it, and having a different approach to that show. Yeah. It was our most watched show ever. Thanks to everybody out there, making that the case. I'm going to be honest from the lead-in here. The way things are being handled now with ESPN Plus and ESPN stuff is possibly going to change our ability in the future to bring you highlights and coverage. We're waiting to have some conversations. I'm sure they're going to happen at some point because there are plenty of people out there that are sort of breaching some of the rules, or, we've stretched the rules over the years. We admit that freely, but we also sit here and say, we are providing D3 a platform on our dime. Some folks have given us a little bit of dime to go with it, but trust me, it's on our dime. And, to give the advertising, the marketing, the support for D3 we would ask in return that we get a little latitude in certain things. And it's Stagg Bowl. To be able to bring the post-game interviews on video this year was an honor. It was a little bit of some people weren't thrilled about the idea that we did that. But you know what? What was the harm? Everybody got to the press conference on time. And, it gave a perspective out there that you don't normally get. And so we enjoyed doing that. So, but the point I'm going to make here is that the coaches and the ADs and administrators and everybody else out there needs to probably raise their voices a little bit to say, just because we're going to this ESPN model, Flow Sports had the understanding of it, gave us password, gave us rights to use clips in our crunch time shows and whatnot, no problem. Schools generally do that. Nobody's ever revoked access. They've gone out of the way to get us the clips when they're missing on the streams, and it's a pain sometimes, but we get it done and with their help. But there's got to be a process eventually where ESPN stuff, we have trusted partners or something like that out there, like D3 Football, like us, that can have the access, that can present it, because we're not looking to profit from those clips. We're looking to ultimately benefit all of you to know what's going on and benefit the platform and give the courtesy bar to ESPN and the NCAA, like you'll see in a little bit. Okay, that's what our intention is. So who knows what the future holds here, but I would hope that coaches and administrators out there are going to be able to sort of have our back as much as anything, because they understand what we provide is important to the overall D3 football complex out there. And same thing with D3Football.com and everybody else that has a legitimate, frequently posted platform out there. I just want to put that out there as a kind of a preface to, what's going to be happening probably in the next couple of years. I don't want people to be shocked about it, but I also want them to be prepared for what needs to happen, I think, to sort of help us help you in this whole realm. 30,000-foot view from the Stagg Bowl in terms of the actual gameplay action. JB, the floor is yours on that as we get ready for our show here.
Well, I think it was a very good football game played by two very talented teams. I think ultimately what it boiled down to was Mount Union missed a couple of opportunities in the red zone, and in the second half, North Central was able to make a few adjustments that helped them win the game. And with 20 points scored in the fourth quarter, they kind of punctuated and accentuated the fact that they were the number one team for a reason. They were the favorites in this game for a reason. They had the best quarterback in the country, two-time Gagliardi Trophy winner. We'll have probably a little more on him pretty soon. And just a talented roster of this 38 fourth and fifth-year senior group, kind of completing a historic run with 3 championships in 5 years. So, yeah, Mount Union certainly came to play. They had their moments. That first touchdown by Tyler Echeverry, I was like, whoa, okay. And they kept it pretty close up until maybe about 8-9 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Great football game and worthy of a championship.
Indeed. Let's go to the highlights. We're not going to do the pomp and circumstance of crunch time. You know what the segment is. And I'm going to do it live with you here. So, JB, relax. Grab that coffee. Yep. Get ready for a little bit of crunch time here. Yeah, exactly. You could just go back like that and nobody know the difference here. Folks, here we go. And it was the national championship game between Mount Union and North Central. And we'll get some music on for you as well here, I believe. Here you go. So we're going to go first quarter, 12:55 left. Luke Lanen fumbles the ball, and it's recovered by Caleb Brown. And that's a kind of a messy situation there to start this game. Ultimately, that's going to be Tyler Echeverry with the touchdown on the 24-yard run leading off of that turnover. 7-0, Mount Union had the lead. About 4 minutes later from that touchdown, though, North Central does respond. Here's Luke Lanen finding Miles Walton for a 24-yard touchdown pass to tie it up. 7 apiece at that point. And, you know, we thought that was what we'd see as a response, but then coming back here, here's Mount Union on a 4th and 3. TJ DeShields incomplete from the 12-yard line. That's a big miss there in the red zone. Yeah, 8:09 left, second quarter. Luke Lanen does what he does, a 16-yard touchdown run to make it 14-7 North Central with their first lead of the game. About 4 minutes later, it's going to be Ivan Merrick kicking a 30-yard field goal for Mount Union to make it 14-10. So this time they do convert in the red zone, does Mount Union, and they're trying to get to that lead. They will get one more chance, and with some help, that fair catch and the catch interference personal foul made things pretty dicey there. So Mount Union, with 15 seconds left, has 3rd down and goal from the 6, no timeouts, and TJ DeShields runs the ball, no gain. Tick, 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 10 seconds left. They need to get the field goal unit on now, and they're trying to in earnest here, but 3 seconds, 2, 1, that's it. And the kicker was out of place, and the holder was 2. And then to start this third quarter, there's a missed field goal. So they have red zone opportunities all over the place, but only 1 got converted in 4 opportunities. North Central, on the other hand, you'll see here Luke Lanen finding Thomas Susquehanna, getting to the 1-yard line, ultimately 46-yard completion, and then a minute later, Jacob Parody, the 1-yard touchdown pass from Luke Lanen. That is going to make it 21-10 in favor of North Central. We felt this game might be over at that point, to be honest with you, the way they were starting to roll. But just 6 plays later, Nick Turner from TJ DeShields says, not so fast, my friend. 21-17 at that point. It's just a 4-point lead for North Central. In response, the kickoff goes to Thomas Susquehanna, and look at him go here. 57 yards ultimately. That's the 40, they give him 57 yards apparently to the 49-yard line. Fourth quarter, 14:18 left. That's Jack Rummel, a 6-yard touchdown pass from Lane in 28-17. But again, just 2 plays later, Jerry Cooper, a 54-yard touchdown pass from TJ DeShields, makes it close again. That would make it 28-23. Here, with the 2-point conversion coming up, it looks like they may have been still moving on the left side there. He never really settles in, but they don't call the penalty on it. The 2-point conversion as a result is good, and so 28-25 is the score. But 3 plays later, Charles Coleman. Did anybody actually touch him? I don't think so. 66-yard rumble down the field.
Oh.
34-25. North Central leading here. Here's an interesting call. 9:30 left. 43-yard line of North Central. Mount Union punts. I'm not sure if that was the right call with the time running down. And here's what, hindsight being 2020 is, on 4th and 1, North Central on the other side goes for it in their own territory and gets the first down. And that helps make this a 7-minute long drive. Ultimately, Jacob Parody gets into the end zone for the touchdown, 41-25. He gives the cutthroat sign, and he gets cut from the game because that was his second unsportsmanlike. JB disagrees with that call, as he said in the postgame. Last opportunity for Mount Union, and ultimately TJ DeShields is going to be sacked. Bobby Medina credited officially with the sack, and that would do it. North Central is your 2024 Division III football national champions. They win this game after that kneel down by the final score of 41-25 over Mount Union. What a great game it was indeed, with that first quarter especially starting out interestingly. DeShields, 314 yards, 2 passing touchdowns. Echeverry, 20 rushes, 83 yards, 1 rushing touchdown. Nick Turner, 7 catches, 104 yards, touchdown. Brandon Janssens had 11 tackles. Luke Lanen, 353 total yards, 4 passing, 1 rushing touchdown. My goodness, he was named the Stagg Bowl Most Outstanding Player. Also, Jacob Parody, 7 catches, 84 yards, 2 receiving touchdowns. Braden Garrigan, team high, 8 tackles for North Central. JB, we're going to go to the scoreboard slide here and talk briefly about this game.
Yeah.
Those red zone opportunities, partially bad luck on the part, I should say, of Mount Union. Partially credit the defense ultimately, but that really, I think, separated this game ultimately. What were you seeing out there?
Yeah, I think it was definitely in the short field situations, the defense was able to clamp down. There were some key pass breakups, some quarterback hurries that forced DeShields to kind of rush his throws, overthrow a guy that we saw in that one clip where you and I were just standing in the end zone. Both sides of the ball for North Central did a great job, which was what we expected. But honestly, after the first half, a lot of people may have already forgotten that the Mount Union defense held North Central to 48 rushing yards, which was really strange for me to see. I was like, what's going on here? But as Brad Spencer explained in the post-game press conference, he was basically like, yeah, we knew that they would do something to try to force our hand, to take something away. And so, lo and behold, Luke Lennon steps up, goes, 18 for 25, had a great night throwing the ball. Skokna made some huge catches. Parody, obviously, the 2 touchdowns. And yes, I think football should be fun. You're allowed to celebrate. Maybe tone it down with the gestures a little bit. But, how can you blame a guy for being excited for effectively catching the game-winning touchdown where you knew it was over, the championship was yours? And so congratulations to the Cardinals. Just a great performance all around. But hey, Mount Union did pretty well as well. Echeverry had 67, 8, 9 yards in the first half. He kind of faded out in the second half as they began to trail and they started trying to throw the ball some more. Sanders, I believe, got injured, their top receiver, which hurt Mount Union. And they lost one of their starting offensive linemen. So few next man up situations there. Didn't pan out for them, but you got to give the Raiders credit for a great season and a great playoff run. They acquitted themselves well.
What I saw, honestly, that was different from the Johns Hopkins game, and it didn't start this way. The offensive line for Mount Union initially was doing what they were doing against Johns Hopkins. That began to change into the second half, and I think what happens in that scenario is they're getting worn down more because the defensive line is larger and putting more of an impact on the offensive line in that game. So may not have been initially going to affect them. It was going to affect them eventually. And in that second half, you could tell the pressure was starting to get a little bit better on TJ DeShields in that game, and better and better. And, we end with a sack basically before the kneel downs, fittingly, I think, as a result of some of that. So, that's the thing about football is you may not initially see it, but as that game plays out, we kind of knew that would eventually be a factor in this game. Would have been too late to be a factor was really the question I think we were asking ourselves. But no, because, North Central had the lead, and so they were able to retain the lead by getting the pressure on. And also, as you said, they avoided the run game to a certain degree, Mount Union did in that second half. When I don't know if it was too early to avoid it or to completely get rid of it to that degree, but it is what it is. The only thing I question is the 9.5 minutes left, punting the ball at the 43-yard line. How many more opportunities are you going to get in that situation, I guess is my question, to get the ball? And the answer ended up being one, because North Central ends up scoring on a 7-minute drive at the end of the game. But, again, you make the calls in the moment based on what you're seeing and feeling. That's not a criticism on Jeff Dart, but it's just a reality that maybe if he had to take that back, he probably would. Also, what happened at the end of the first half there with 15 seconds left, that was a pretty brutal call, because I don't know any situation in which if you didn't have that plan to go out of bounds somehow immediately or through the end zone or whatever, in inbounds play, a sack, or what was run ultimately was going to kill that half and not get you the 3 points. That could have been a very different game at that point. What are you thinking?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that missed opportunity to score there was really ended up, I think, hurting Mount Union to a certain extent. I mean, I don't know what DeShields saw, if he just sort of panicked and on the run option play, maybe he should have just thrown the ball. Who knows? But end of day, it was that, I think, 1 out of 4 red zone trip stat that you mentioned earlier that was a big difference in this one for sure.
Let's talk about your MVPs quickly here. They're all wearing red for a reason. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, you saw, obviously, Luke Lennon is the most outstanding player, 5 touchdowns, tied, or I think he set the NCAA all-time record for touchdown passes and career touchdowns. I mean, the guy's 57-2 in his career, an impressive run. Susquehanna had that huge kickoff return, was a big impact in the special teams side of things. Field goal kicking and kickoffs didn't really play a big role. There was barely any punts in this game, but Susquehanna's kickoff return at that particular part in the game was a big play. And one of the captains for the Cardinals defense, Ramir and Roby, had 2 very critical pass breakups in the red zone, I believe, and was a big reason why Mount Union wasn't able to score or had to settle for field goals instead of getting touchdowns because of his play in the defensive secondary.
Just to be complete here, 1-0 for both of us. You win by 2 this season. Congratulations. More or less, what were you, basically 141 out of 200, so about 70%.
Yeah, I will say this though: if we put up our records for the playoffs, you beat me on those picks, because I had that one weekend where I went like 3-5 and you were 6-2. So you win the playoff pick thing, but yeah, hey, it's just bragging rights.
Two years in a row I've done that. I will point out to you, but you are correct. JB, it is time to name our players of the year and our coach of the year. So. First things first, we're going to start with the defense here for a reason, and then go to the offense, then special teams, and then we do our newcomer of the year as well, and coach of the year. And so just follow along, and so, if we break for an interview or something, you'll understand that we'll finish the rest of them later on. So let's start here with defensive honorable mentions. This is something we're adding this year for offense and defense, honorable mentions. And we want to, give some accolades to some players. Let me give as a preface to this. We generally don't pick the same ones as D3Football.com, just to shake it up a little bit. That's not always the case, and you'll see a situation where that wasn't the case literally later on in some of this discussion. So just bear with us here and understand that we understand there are 25,000 players in Division III college football, and we want to make sure that we get accolades out to as many of them as deserve it, but we also want to retain integrity too. And so that's where the balance is struck for us when we do this. So having said that, defensive honorable mentions, we'll start with Mount Union's Rossi Moore. I've spoken about him glowingly for the last few weeks because of his impact on games, but they sort of got him out of the Stagg Bowl, it felt like at times, because they knew they could key in on a guy like him and have an impact ultimately. We list him as linebacker, defensive end. He's the bandit, we call him. D3Football.com, first team All-American, AFCA second team All-American, AP first team All-American, D3 Football Region 4 Defensive Player of the Year. Led Mount Union's defense with 111 total tackles. I understand that includes playoffs, but my goodness, still. Includes 20.5 tackles for loss. That includes 11.5 sacks and 2 fumble recoveries on top of that. D3's Cliff Harris Award finalist, and finishes career with 301 total tackles, 66 tackles for loss, and 36 sacks. These aren't career accolades, but we still like to include the career figures. JB, tell us a little bit more about Rossi Moore.
Yeah, he was just one of the most dangerous defensive weapons in the country. A hybrid, big enough to be a defensive end, but fast enough to make plays like a linebacker. Obviously a decorated student athlete with recognition from D3Football.com, the ASCA and AP, regional football defensive player of the year by D3Football.com. 111 tackles this season. I mean, it'd be hard-pressed to find anybody with that kind of output nationally, and it was a big reason why Mount Union made it to the championship. Now, he didn't have as big an impact in the Stagg Bowl as we thought he might, and you have to credit the All-Americans on the North Central offensive line and their tight end group for blocking him well. But an impressive season, one of the best defensive players that we've seen in recent years, and so congratulations to Rossi Moore and the Mount Union Purple Raiders on a great season.
Also on honorable mention for defense, a name that maybe you wouldn't anticipate, but we were talking down in Houston about this a little bit, and it made sense ultimately. Transfer portal works well sometimes, and with Charlie Patterson it did, from Hardin-Simmons University. He was the transfer from Illinois College, but ends up being D3Football.com, AFCA and AP first team All-American. D3Football.com, Region 3 Defensive Player of the Year, easy for me to say. Tackled 80 times, 14 for loss, 8 sacks this season. Remember, they were a first game knockout in the playoffs ultimately via UMHB, so he didn't get the extra games to get tackles into the hundreds. Helped Hardin-Simmons to an ASC championship and 10-1 overall record, and he was formerly a Midwest Conference Defensive Player of the Year with over 250 career tackles. You kind of edged me into this direction, and so give me your thoughts on Charlie Patterson.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, a transfer from Illinois College, looking for one last year, and landed with the Cowboys and just continued to excel. I mean, he was the Midwest Conference Defensive Player of the Year. I believe he was also the ASC Defensive Player of the Year. Just an all-around great linebacker, a run stuffer, can cover, goes sideline to sideline, just a smart football player who made a big difference in a great season for Hardin-Simmons. Indeed,
and we're going to bring in somebody right now and get him ready on his end to talk
about defense.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to bring in him to talk about our Defensive Player of the Year. So We're going to bring in Ryan Larsen, the head coach of Carnegie Mellon University. Coach, glad to have you. But before we dive in here, we want to show folks who our Defensive Player of the Year is. And ladies and gentlemen, there's a reason why it's Ryan Larsen joining us. He's clapping there. Yep, exactly. Linebacker from Carnegie Mellon, Robert Corey, we'll call him Bobby, named the only defensive Glardy Trophy finalist, D3Football.com first team All-Region and All-American linebacker, AFCA second team All-American linebacker, AP first team, led Carnegie Mellon's defense with 77 total tackles, 6.4 tackles per game, 18.5 for loss, 6 sacked, 5 forced fumbles, finished his career with 366 total tackles. Amazing. And the Carnegie Mellon defense averaged 11.15 points per game allowed from 2021 to 2024, going 39-6 over that period, thanks to that strong defense. Obviously, the offense had some role in that too, but the defense obviously was a bread and butter scenario. Coach, you've had to talk about him a lot lately, but I don't think you get sick of talking about him. No. Tell us about Bobby Corey and why he's such a great player.
First off, he's an unbelievable person, and I really mean that. I know it wasn't mentioned in the slide. I know you guys did an amazing job covering him and Luke as, Campbell finalists as well. But Bobby is 2-time academic All-American, probably will be 3. Has been a 9-time playing All-American over the last 3 years. He is just a phenomenal young man in all the things that he does. Love him to death. I love his twin brother, Tommy, to death. They're like the closest things I have to sons. And I mean that. Just everything that he does it with intention and purpose to do it the best he can, whether that's practice, games, academics, internships at crazy places like Tesla and Mack trucks and stuff like that. I mean, he's a rock star. And I tell people this story all the time. The intention and purpose that he has as a person, we have the captains over to our house for dinner. And they leave, and I look at my wife, and I do this, and she's like, "What's 5? What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Just wait." Within 5 minutes, and you get this text message, and it's not like 2-3 lines, like "Thanks, coach." It's like, and Tommy does the same thing too, just to say how much they appreciate, how much they love being a part of the program, appreciate being in our home. They're just unbelievable. I'm gonna miss them a lot. But I know they're going to stay around. They're going to find their ways around at games. Bobby's working really hard at getting a job here in Pittsburgh, which I'm really excited about, to still have him around the program. And I just can't speak enough great things about him in all aspects of who he is.
Yeah, I remember when you guys announced him as I think it was either a Glardy finalist or semifinalist, and he gave a speech in front of the team, but he kept his helmet on. And
that was for Campbell.
Thing it was like such Campbell. Or Campbell Award. Yeah, so I mean, such a football player at heart. But looking back, Coach, any memories or stories that the people out there wouldn't know about Bobby as a player, certain games that he had to overcome, maybe an injury or something where he fought through something and really came through for you guys?
Yeah, I think, one thing is that shows the impact that he has on our program is actually when he was taken out of a game. So we're playing DePaul, my first year here, 2022. First drive of the third quarter. And we were, in a pretty good position handling the game at that moment. But he was ejected for targeting, which was reversed, and then was able to play at North Central the next week. But you could feel not only on our sideline, but in the entire stadium, kind of this deflation of, oh my gosh, Bobby's out. Like, what are we going to do? And that just shows you the impact that he has with the people around him. And that was a great learning lesson for myself and the staff too, where we've created moments in practice where we've pulled him out to kind of replicate those times. Like, we have to be able to overcome. Bobby, Tommy, and I have had, I couldn't even begin to describe to you the amount of conversations we've had just about life hanging out in my office, going to Campbell, seeing him on the same stage as Larry Fitzgerald, Warwick Dunn. That is a memory I will remember for the rest of my life. And even though he didn't win the Campbell, my wife texted me this, after the announcement that Jalen Milroe had won, and she said, "Hey, like he's up there with the giants of college football. Like that's pretty amazing." And I told him that after, and he got really choked up because I think even in the madness of the press and all the things that were happening that week, I don't even think he was able to fully wrap his head around it all because he was still pretty upset that we had lost to Mount Union, which we're all still getting over that a little bit. But no, he's just an unbelievable, young man. And we've had some interesting moments in practice. He's such a competitor. He's so fiery. He and I have had some knockout dragouts in practice. So has Tommy and I, because they're similar, where, they want to go, and they want to hit everything at all times. And I have to balance that, obviously. We need to be healthy. But I would joke with Bobby a lot, particularly this last year. In practice, like we would scheme things offensively to neutralize him, to get away from him, to not let him blow things up. And I said, "Get used to this, buddy, because this is what everyone's going to do to you." And he's like, I know. It just drives me crazy. I just want to get in on the plays. So yeah, he's a competitor in every way. But he's like that Jekyll and Hyde. On the field, he's a madman. But man, you get him off the field, it is no, yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, thank you. So polite, honestly, pretty soft spoken. And I think that's what makes him special. He's got that balance to him of both worlds. And at a place like this, it's great that he does, because he needs to turn those things on at certain times to be as successful as he's been.
Coach, I want to talk about your season too. I've been around your program enough times to see the maturation of guys like Ben Mills and the Coreys and others on your team. And, some of them are graduating off here, but, you got as close to beating Mount Union as anybody before the Stagg Bowl. Hopkins and you guys did a great job against a team that ends up looking like they were the real deal at the end of the day in that Stagg Bowl. You saw us go through the highlights and the clips there, and they were there. I mean, it was a game, and if those fourth down situations and, all the other stuff going on in the red zone had panned out, it could have been an entirely different result. But, looking at your season, give us kind of an assessment, and where do you go from here ultimately as you do lose key components to graduation? And also, I believe there's a new trail you're going to be blazing starting next season as well. So a little bit of a transition coming up here. Kind of give us the overview over the next couple of minutes here if you can.
Yeah, I think, we look at 2 years ago, 3 seasons ago at North Central. Right. And being 14-7 at half down and being 14-7 going in the fourth quarter. And just sadly, just not being able to have enough firepower to finish that thing out and end up losing 28-7 to the eventual national champions. And, really take an assessment of the program at that point after my first year and saying, okay, we've figured out a way to compete with those teams, the North Centrals, the Mount Unions, those types. What are we going to do now to put ourselves in a position to win those games, to knock off a giant? To become a giant, you have to knock off a giant. I say that to the guys all the time. And so this year, we felt like we did take that step where, we're able to compete and put ourselves in a position to win, which is exciting. And so you can really feel and see that growth. As we look to the future, we don't want to be too nostalgic. We're really proud of what's happened here over the last, I can speak for 3 years, but even before my time, winning a conference championship the year before I got here, and obviously Coach Lackner winning 70% of his games over his 36-year career is pretty impressive. So we want to look at our foundation, and our past as that way, but we have great new challenges ahead of us. Yes, we are losing, some really important players, and I know Bobby gets a lot and he hates it. He wants Tommy, he wants Adrian, he wants Logan, Ben, Trey, Hunter Campbell, and then all this other seniors to get credit too. And they all do deserve credit. We got some really great young players coming up. We've got some guys that have really contributed, and with new challenges and a new league and a really exciting schedule that I cannot wait to put out there and announce. We've got 3 amazing out of conference games. I think that we're making the moves that we want to do to be able to eventually knock off a giant and become a giant. But it's a part of that process. And I know Frank and we've talked online about this. Like, I firmly believe, like, you've got to compete. You've got to compete against great opponents, and not putting our schedule out there yet, but we're going to have 4 playoff teams on our schedule from this last year. And I'm really excited about that. And obviously that's not including some of those Centennial teams that very well could have been in the playoffs, like a Muhlenberg, for example. So really excited. I know our team is really excited about the new challenge and what we're doing, and really proud of what we have done. And we finally are talking about that future move. We have not talked about it at all. The Mount Union press conference was the first time I really talked about it, because I didn't want to devalue in any way the work that we were trying to do in 2024.
And I know you have a fondness for the Pac. It's not that you guys leave it upset or anything like that. And there's some great competition you face and some great memories from it. But obviously, a new road is going to be coming, a new journey for you guys in the Centennial. So we wish you luck in that, and we wish the Pac luck in what they're going to be dealing with. A lot of transition going on. One last quick question for you, Coach. Transfer portal. I want your point of view, because I appreciate your point of view, especially on stuff like this. How is it affecting the D3 game right now? Because we're seeing a lot of standout players, the Matt Youngs of the world, for instance, that are realizing they may be able to go into the portal and get some interest. And the reverse happening, where some upper level guys are like, hey, I want to go play in D3 and get some quality playing time. But we're seeing this happen, it seems like, much more frequently suddenly. And, COVID was interesting for a number of reasons. Horrible disease. It helped build team spirits up, though, in certain ways. But it also expedited this portal scenario a little bit more, it felt like, as we watched this play out. What is the status of the portal as far as you're concerned, and how it's affecting the game in, let's say, 2 minutes or less if you can?
Yeah, it's so specific to the universities, I think. Here we're not a big portal team. We're just not. We've had a couple transfers here. We had 2 transfers this year. Jameson LaJoy, who's brother Jackson, and I know you guys did a great interview with them. And then Charlie Katarinsik, who was our starting right tackle every game, actually was a full scholarship player from West Virginia and came here via the transfer portal. I think it's very specific, but you are seeing, I think, a really positive of, hey, there's some amazing players at D3. Let's use Matt Jung as a great example, like his ability to go from Bethel to Wisconsin, right? And really showing how great D3 football is. And it is affording opportunities for young men to find new homes. To me, what I love about D3, and I know you guys echoed this sentiment, is the reasons for transferring usually at this level, whether people are coming down to D3 or they're moving up, it's football. It's not an NIL deal usually. It's not something like that. They just want to play more, or they just want to take advantage of their experience. So you're seeing it. Each school's different, even at this level, very different. Like, we're not getting mid-year transfers. Other places are. That's a part of the deal. I think for us, just talking about Carnegie Mellon, it's got to be the right fit. It's got to be the right fit and the reason why. And I've been really proud of, we haven't had a ton of transfers, but everyone that we've had, they've come here for those right reasons, the academics, wanting to play in a competitive program and help us build it to where we want to go. And I think that's the key to it all. And as long as you keep your priorities straight, everyone can win and have a great experience from it.
Appreciate your candor on that, to be honest. And I knew we would get a good candid answer from you, because you've always been nothing but candid with this when we've talked. But, let's go back to the original reason we had you on here. We want to congratulate one more time Bobby Corey, Defensive Player of the Year for in the D3FB Huddle, linebacker, Carnegie Mellon University. Please send him and Tommy our best, and the rest of your team as well. And we will see you. If you want to reveal your schedule on our platform, you feel free to do so. It sounds like you got some exciting stuff.
For sure. Let's do that.
Absolutely. I'd love to do that, because it sounds like we're going to have some real excitement coming on down the line there. So a little bit of extra marketing there for you. Yeah, I know you're a marketing guy. I know you are.
We try our best.
I love it.
Well, thank you all for your support. Sincerely, thank you for your support. Thank you for everything you do for all D3 athletes, not just Carnegie Mellon. It's awesome. You're elevating, what's great about college football, and it shows at this level. And obviously Bobby is a great representative of what a student athlete is. So we really appreciate you guys and your support of D3 football, and really appreciate the recognition for Bobby, who is very deserving, although I know he's getting sick of getting all these accolades, but I tell him every time he deserves it and enjoy it.
He does. He does indeed. Coach, thank you very much. We'll talk to you soon, definitely.
Thanks, Frank. Thanks, AB.
Coach Ryan
Thanks,
Larsen,
Coach.
Carnegie Mellon University. Appreciate him and his time.
I can't believe I forgot about the Campbell Trophy thing on the bullets. I'm like, of course, so like one of the biggest awards in college football. I leave it off the slide. Maybe you should do the slides next year, Frank. This is our third year doing these Player of the Year things, and we're.
Well, look, you're equal opportunity, and I'll tell you why you're equal opportunity in a moment on something like that. First things first, it's time to go to our offensive honorable mentions first and continue our journey here to talk about the Players of the Year. And again, we're going to start with a Mount Union player here in our offensive honorable mention. Who else but Tyler Echeverry, the running back from the University of Mount Union, first team D3Football.com and AFCA All-American, rushed for 1,714 yards and 30 touchdowns in the 2024 season, caught 40 passes for 292 yards, 5 touchdowns. D3Football.com Region 4 Offensive Player of the Year, rushed for 83 yards and 1 rushing touchdown in Stagg Bowl 51. JB, you saw him up close and personal, in the Stagg Bowl itself. That first half, it looked like he was going to do what Tyler Echeverry does. And when they went away from him, it seemed like it changed their impact on the field at times. So that tells me just how important he was really to their offense. Go ahead and take me from there.
Yeah, and although Coach Spencer alluded to maybe that opening touchdown being some of the rust of having 2+ weeks off, like you said, Frank, the Mount Union offensive line did a great job in the first half. I think they had to go to a little more of a pass-oriented attack in the second half, especially once they fell behind 21-10. Just sort of changed the strategy, and so got a little bit away from Tyler's running expertise. But hey, at the end of the day, 17 weeks, 1,700 yards. I mean, basically the guy was good for 100 yards a game or more. Just an impressive student athlete. It was nice of him to take the couple of seconds to shake our hands when he was leaving the field before the pregame kickoff and to basically say, hey, just a great young man, and what a career he's had coming up from Florida to play football in Ohio.
Amen on all accounts there. Thank you for bringing that up, actually, because that is a nice gesture. We've not always had the best relationships with Mount Union, and it felt much better this year. It felt like everybody is in a much better spot overall.
100%.
And appreciation in both directions. So we do value that, and thank you to them as well. Also in the offensive honorable mention category, a location I really want to go to watch a game sometime, but this guy will not be playing those games because he's going to be graduating off, and he was just a huge impact for their team this season. Quarterback Aaron Severson for St. John's University. He led St. John's to an 11-1 season in 2024, set the all-time MIAC career passing record, went 331 for 434, which is 76.3% pass completion on a season, folks, with 51 passing touchdowns and only 4 interceptions. Second team D3Football.com All-American QB, second team AFCA All-American QB, and D3Football.com Region 6 Offensive Player of the Year. Now, I've got to be clear to folks on this one because, some people might say Josh Ehrlich beat this guy, so why not him? Even in that game, even in the loss, it was not because of Aaron Severson and his numbers, because he still played the heck out of that game. Yep, and so, it tells you who he is, and if not for him, it would have been a one-sided affair in that game, honestly. Aaron Severson was all that and then some, and just fell a little short in a big game against Susquehanna ultimately. JB, any further thoughts on Aaron Severson?
I mean, from a statistical standpoint, he probably had I think he had the highest pass completion, yards, passing touchdowns, I think the least amount of interceptions of any Division III quarterback this season. So, from that perspective, he deserves recognition on that accomplishment, as well as a great career for the Johnnies. He set, I think, all the MIAC's passing records this year, or broke them effectively. Just really an impressive student athlete, and so we wish him the best. It's a shame I never got to see him play in person. I was thinking that the Stagg Bowl might have been it, but yeah, their season ended a little prematurely. But like you said, he couldn't have done much more in that game. He threw for over 400 yards, 5 touchdowns. I mean, the guy is incredible.
Absolutely. Now time for our Offensive Player of the Year. And if you want to see an interview with them, go back to our interview clips or interview video from the other night. This should not be a shock. And as I said, you have to maintain integrity when you do these things. If we didn't pick Luke Lanen, I think you would have all questioned what we were doing. And in fact, we did pick Luke Lanen as our Offensive Player of the Year for 2024. Gagliardi Trophy winner both 2023 and 2024. Only second player to have the back-to-back on a Gagliardi Trophy. Kevin Burke from Mount Union being the other player that had that. Stagg Bowl 51 Most Outstanding Player, D3Football.com First Team All-American, Region 5 in 2024 Offensive Player of the Year, AP First Team All-American Offensive Player of the Year, accounted for 353 yards and 5 touchdowns, 4 passing in Stagg Bowl 51, led NCC to a 15-0 record, 57-2 overall career mark, and those 2 losses were only Stagg Bowls. And 212.57 quarterback rating in the 2024 season, 43 passing touchdowns, just 5 interceptions, rushed for 979 yards and 15 rushing touchdowns. He, too, after the press conference, came out and shook all the hands of every media member that was in the media room. Another standout class act individual. We said some very positive things to him in our post-game interview about the person he is and the fact that he will go down as one of the greatest Division III players in history in football. Put it in your own words if you can, your thoughts on Luke.
Yeah, I mean, he's just the definition of the kind of humble leader that if you're a coach or someone running a football program that you want, and in the sort of front and center. I mean, couldn't be more gracious in spite of all the statistical and national accomplishments. He carries himself with a humility that's very rare this day and age. And so, yeah, it's been our privilege to cover his career these last 4 seasons, and what a run. I mean, now North Central is now the clear top dog in this arena. It'll be interesting to see what happens after Luke and this 37 other senior class from the Cardinals graduates. Will they reload? We speaking of the transfer portal, we saw that there was a guy from, I think, Division II who's transferred in to play quarterback for the Cardinals, so maybe he's the next one up. We'll see. But yeah, the Cardinals have established a level of excellence that's definitely going to be the standard for a while until someone takes it from them.
Indeed. Now let's go to our Special Teams Player of the Year, but it's actually a co-award. We couldn't make up our mind on this, and we believe that both of these players...
I'll say one thing real quick. With Special Teams, there's both a kicking and a return component to it.
True.
So the way I viewed it is like, we obviously want to recognize a kicker. We also wanted to recognize a guy who is instrumental in the field position return game. So picking one guy for this didn't really make sense to me, so I think it made sense to go with 2.
I like that, and that's very honest in the way we did discuss it, so thank you for that. So first off, we're going to talk about the kicking department, and somebody that I got to say hello to just recently when I made a little surprise trip down to San Antonio, Texas. Tyler Huddle, in the Huddle, is our kicker and punter as our co-special teams player of the year. He was D3Football.com and AFCA First Team All-American place kicker, 7-time All-American Award winner. Named the AP Special Teams Player of the Year for 2024 season, averaged over 63 yards per kickoff, went 18 for 22 on field goal attempts with a long of 49 yards, and averaged 39 yards per punt. Definitely some good stats there for Tyler Huddle. You got to meet him at Barry and get to know him a little bit out there. Your thoughts on Tyler?
Yeah, I think the Barry game was when he either set the Trinity school record or tied it with a 52-yard bomb of a field goal that just still probably could have been good from 60 yards. I couldn't believe how far that ball went. I was standing right by the uprights, and it clanged off the whatever that machine is that they put guys in to shoot the game over the field. And this guy's leg strength is just something else to behold. And as you can see, I mean, he's racked up pretty much every All-American award that you can think of, and going 18 for 22 in a year where we saw a lot of doinks, a lot of missed field goals from pretty close by. That kind of consistency is something that I know Coach Urban really values, and it's a very rare thing to see, not only at this level, but any level of football. So congratulations to our Tyler in the huddle for this one.
Indeed. And he will be sharing those honors with somebody I did get to see play again this season, or for the first time, but another player I've gotten to see, and a dynamo of a player in so many different realms. It's tough to peg him as a special teams player, but we wanted to make sure that he's included on the list. And who other than A.J. Jackson from Lake Forest College, the wide receiver, running back, kick returner, etc. He's AP first team All-American, all-purpose special teams player. D3Football.com first team All-American at running back, rushed for 21 touchdowns and had 7 receiving touchdowns, averaged over 15 yards per punt return and 18 yards per kickoff return. Remember, that's an average, and those are some pretty good numbers when you're talking averages out there for punt and kickoff returns. A class act, and Jim Catanzaro can't say enough positive about A.J. Jackson for obvious reasons, but Cat is right about AJ. He is all he is advertised to be on that playing field, and had a heart of a lion out there against Bethel, but just couldn't get those injuries to calm down for him. He had to come out of the game a couple times, but still wanted to go back in. That's who he is ultimately there, JB.
Yeah, absolutely. And what a career. Just a proverbial jackknife of a player, can do so many things. Run the ball, catch the ball, return, just an elusive, athletic back, receiver, or whatever. He can do it all. And I know that Coach Catanzaro is going to miss having AJ as part of his team, but what a career. And we congratulate him for being one of our National Players of the Year.
We have one player left and then the Coach of the Year, so let's get the player done here first. And this is going to be the D3 Football Newcomer of the Year. We don't like using the word rookie when we think to avoid it, because that's not fair. This is somebody that's just new to the scene that ultimately made a huge impact. And honestly, I saw it at first early in the season and didn't even know about him, and learned real fast about the impact he might have this season. That is Rashawn Lamons, the running back from Susquehanna University. Third team D3Football.com All-American, first team All-Region 2 running back. Rushed for 1,650 yards and 18 touchdowns. So it's 117.86 yards per game average. Had 40 receptions for 427 yards, 3 receiving touchdowns, threw a TD against Wilkes, in fact. Also had 3 punt return touchdowns this season, all landmark conference first team. JB, instead of us talking about this, just between us, we wanted to invite on our friend, Tom Perkovich, head coach of Susquehanna, and make sure you watch this interview in its entirety, folks, for a special reason. And we wanted to talk with the coach of Rashawn Lamons, our newcomer of the year, running back from Susquehanna, Coach Tom Perkovich. Coach, before we dive into discussion about Rashawn, I think it would be a fitting start to talk about your season overall. You got over the playoff hump, as they call it. Got that first win, and you guys started to roll in the playoffs all the way to the semifinals. More in the semifinals in a second. We won't talk too much about that. But, you guys did roll. What was the difference maker this year for your team to actually get over that hump and then continue that rolling down the line there?
Well, I think it came down to experience. Sometimes you got to go through some tough times to get through things. Obviously we had some tough losses in the playoffs the year before and the year before that, especially the year before against Grove City. I think sometimes you can learn from those things and move forward. And, I thought our guys handled that well in the off season. I think that it just kind of rejuvenated our guys. And then I think that the loss to Cortland early, I take a lot internally after losses. It takes me a while to get over those in any way. But I wasn't really that beat up with that game. We went toe to toe with a great team. We had opportunities. We didn't capitalize on them. We learned how penalties can hurt us in special teams in that game. So I think it, and we hadn't lost a regular season game in a long time. So for us, it was kind of reset our guys a little bit on what needs to get done, what has to get done on a daily basis, and how those little things matter. And I was really happy with the fact that our leadership and knew it and didn't beat around the bush. They took it right on the chin, and and it moved us forward in the right way. And then I think we adjusted as a staff better than we had. We adjusted some practice stuff late in the year. We had 2 buys out of the 3 weeks leading up to Hobart. So I think we managed that well, and we were as fresh as possible going into the playoff run as we could possibly be. So I was, I think it was just experience and then some, a few changes that helped us, and we got better as a team, obviously, with guys like Rashawn and and Josh playing a lot better at quarterback than he did the year before, and it gave us a lot more options. So, we came together a little bit better in some ways.
Well, speaking of Rashawn, I think a lot of D3 football fans, if they didn't already know him, got to know him pretty well in that game against St. John's in the playoffs where you guys went all the way out to Minnesota. Tell us a little bit about what that was like for your team to hop on the plane and go out to Collegeville, one of the storied D3 football stadiums, and this guy, I think he had close to 200 yards rushing, or at least total offense, and scored most of the touchdowns of that game for the Riverhawks. Just tell us, first off, where did you find this guy, and his sort of steady rise throughout the season to finish off with, as we can see here, 1,650 yards and 18 touchdowns.
Yeah, he's out of Delaware, the Tatnall School. We've done fairly well in Delaware over our years here, and he's obviously the cherry on top for us. But we got on him, we recruited him as hard as we recruited anyone, probably, because we were only taking one running back in the class with a couple really good players returning. He was the guy we wanted. He had some other really good options, and I think on his visit, him and one of his high school teammates came together, one of his best friend, and we just connected. We just vibed. We just his family, our players. I think he just felt at home. That fit factor that we talk about in recruiting was really, really huge for him, and it just connected. And he took a little bit to make a decision, but not too long, and we got everything where we needed to be. And he ended up coming. We were ecstatic, obviously, to get him. We thought he could be the player he is, and he can obviously change a game and in a lot of ways, right? Not just running the ball, but his ability to catch the ball out of the backfield and return game. People stopped kicking to him for most of the year after his 3 touchdowns, and I think he still led the country, but didn't get a lot of opportunities. But just so dynamic in so many ways. Fun player to work the offense around, and find ways to get him the ball in ways as a freshman. It's pretty amazing, and but he's a great kid. He's a come to work every day type of guy. He's got an infectious attitude on our team, just smiling, and knows his role, and is a great teammate. And he's a smart player, willing to block, doing all the things that you want out of your guys. He's been just a pleasure to coach, and excited for his future and what he brings. But he's just a great kid. in a lot of ways, and obviously a dynamic player. And to come in and beat a guy like Tommy Grabowski out for the position, who was an all-region player a year ago, says a lot about him. And and Tommy took it great. Kudos to him on how he handled it with the situation. Unfortunately, he got hurt and missed most of the year for us. But interesting situation with a freshman and a returning all-region player. But both guys handled it great, and our team got better because of it.
Coach, I did look down his Twitter feed recently and saw all these different commitments from schools, and he was excited, obviously, to have that kind of attention and for him to pick Susquehanna. That was a big deal, as you said, because of how good he was coming out of high school. But I always focus on the idea of what a great run game does for your pass game ultimately, and I wanted your insight on this. Do you think Rashawn made Josh Ehrlich a better quarterback this season in terms of allowing him to see the field better, have more time in certain cases to draw defenses in a way that they were going to key in or had to key in on the run at certain times, and not just focus on Josh, who obviously was still prolific last year, but as you said, improved this year with his numbers and ability, it felt like?
I think all that plays into trying to defend somebody. For him to be as explosive as he was, you had to try to, make sure that you had people in the box. His ability to make people miss made that hard on people. But I think it always plays into the quarterback position if you can run the football. I think that's something that's we've always believed in here, can make you better. But I don't know. I don't know if it was that way. We ran the ball well a year ago, too. We were top 10, I think, most of the year in rushing offense, and as we were this year. And so it really came down to just Josh's development and connection with Kyle Howes and Chris Buchter and those guys, and which, and his ability to stand in there and make throws, which he wasn't doing a year ago. So, he just knew the offense better. Obviously, Rashawn's ability to run it and our ability to run the football definitely helped him, get some one-on-ones, and those guys made those stick on the outside, and being able to pack the box and get more one-on-ones. And we played more two tight ends this year than we had, so that put another whole stress on the defense, from a run standpoint, and then having to make decisions on how to cover a guy like Kyle, right? So, that definitely opened some things up for Josh, and he did a great job making those things stick. But Josh's development on the whole is a lot credit to him and the work he put in, and then the guys around him doing a great job helping him do that.
JB, if I may, and you'll have the next question, but I want to tell Coach one other thing here. There is a reason we wanted you, especially, Coach Larsen on earlier in the show. It was great, obviously, to have him on. But, Coach, Rashawn's not the only one getting some virtual hardware here. Congratulations to you. You are our 2024 Division III Football Coach of the Year. And just to read off here, you led your program to a 12-win season, which is program best, finishing number 4 in both the D3Football.com and AFCA 2024 Final Top 25, program best rankings. And 2024 landmark champions advanced to the national semifinals with the victories over Hobart, St. John's, and Bethel in that thriller out there. JB, go ahead.
Well, having seen a program that you happen to beat in the playoffs have a similar run about 12 or 10 years ago, I know, Coach, one of the things that was really great for Susquehanna this year was the kind of connecting the alumni of the Riverhawks programs over the years as you guys went on this historic run. Tell us a little bit about what that was like, interacting not only with your current players, but all the excitement that this winning streak and this historic run into the playoffs did for you guys.
Yeah, I think we've had a number of good years. Obviously, this one was a great one, and I'll start by saying I'm honored by the award. A lot of work's gone into it. A lot of emotion right now. I didn't obviously know this, and so thank you for that. I'd like to hats off to my staff too on all the work they did. I look at these awards as staff awards too, but yeah, I think that first big year you have, and we've gotten the alumni kind of back going. When I first got in there, taking over for a long time head coach, and some of the changes we made with our mascot and things like that, there were some bumps in the road with alumni, but for us, it it really has rejuvenated, the connection, I think, with alumni and the people on campus too, man. There's such a great buzz on campus about football and the run we made. That's been really cool to see, and people reaching out, that hadn't reached out, or alumni reaching out that hadn't reached out, which hopefully, continues to connect our people with each other and continue to move our program forward in a lot of ways. Those alumni connections can help you so much. And, I think that our guys were really proud of our team, as they should have been. And I was really happy to see, that brotherhood continue to get stronger that we have here. And, just an unbelievable, obviously, guys, people reaching out. I think when we beat St. John's, up there, which was an unbelievable game, right? Being able to charter playing guys at our level and travel out to a place with that history was, I said to someone yesterday that, that's something our guys will remember forever. I know for me, it's probably the best win I've had in 22 years of doing this. And, just an iconic place and the history there. And for us to go on the road and do that and beat the number 1 overall seed was a special moment. But I think I had 200 texts when I got off the field, from alumni and friends and all that. So group chats and guys from the 86 team that was really good here, reaching out and congratulating us, and just a lot of pride in our program and what we've done, and looking to obviously keep that going forward as much as we can.
I have to admit to you, when I covered the Hobart game at your place in week 2 of the playoffs, I felt like I was saying my farewell for the season to Selinsgrove. And that win, I was watching it in the press box with Fran Elliott and Brian McGoffin, the SIDs of Cortland and Springfield at that time, at least. And we were all thrilled for you. Not that we were rooting against St. John's, but you have such a fan following in the administrative folks, the coaches out there. Kurt Fitzpatrick speaks volumes of greatness about you. And I know you guys after the game had a good talk or two earlier in the season. But that is a sign of a guy doing it the right way ultimately. And we couldn't ignore that when we were looking at this. I mean, Brad Spencer, obviously deserving guy and all the accolades he's gotten, but it takes something special to get over that hump, as we started this discussion, and keep going the way you did. And to be there for that Bethel game, to be able to get the video that showed indeed there was a touchdown scored at the end, and indeed there was a hold, clear hold at the end of that game, shoulder pad and all. It was special for us to be part of that run as well, and to watch you mature into even a better head coach, if that was even possible, coming into this year. So congratulations. Thank you for, entrusting us along the way. You've always been very good to us when you knew we were coming to a game, and talking to us behind the scenes. And we really enjoy Susquehanna is not a quick trip from here. It's 4.5 hours, maybe 5, depending on the weather. But you make it worth it every time. And so hats off to you and your coaches and your administration out there. Everybody makes it a class act, but you obviously are leading the way as far as we're concerned on that. Any last thoughts on 2024 heading into 2025, Coach?
I appreciate, the kind words, and I love JB's hat here, this morning.
I actually have a quick story for you, Coach, about the hat.
We got a story.
So my wife Jen hates the fact that I like to wear like collegiate and athletic wear like this, right? She would rather me be wearing like, All Saints or, more designer clothes. But she did say when she saw the Susquehanna hat, she's like, wow, that's a good one. I like that hat. I'm like, wow, that's pretty high praise from her, because normally with this kind of outfit, she's like, do not go out in public dressed like this. That's why I got away at the Stagg Bowl. I was, kind of just wearing a jersey, and she wasn't there to get me all ducked out like the mayor up there. So maybe next Stagg Bowl I'll have to bump my game up and wear a suit. But I'm kind of a hoodie and hat kind of guy. And thank you for this one. It's a real sharp looking hat.
Yeah, but I really appreciate all you guys do for our game and the publicity. And anytime you get to Selinsgrove, I know it's not the easiest place to get to. It's a great place. It's a lot of special things here, and and Frank's seen a bunch of games, and I'm sure we host Hopkins week 3 next year, so I'm sure we'll have some buzz in that game. And we got your alma mater week 1, Frank. So it'll be fun. Maybe we'll see you a couple more times here in Selinsgrove, but appreciate everything you do, guys. And what a great year, right, for D3 football. Just an amazing year in so many ways. And, hats off to Coach Spencer and his crew. What an impressive job. Man, they were so good. And, and what they did was incredible. And, I think, this is another great year. D3 football, as it continues to get better and better. As I think Kurt said a couple of weeks ago, D3 football is at the height. I agree with that, and I think it's an awesome year. But I appreciate all the publicity for our program and what we've done, and the honor for Rashawn, and it means a lot to be honored by you guys, because I think you guys have a unique view of Division III football. And you see it a lot of ways. Coaches see it, and not just about statistics, and it's about when you play well and who you play against, and I think you guys have your finger on the button really well, and so having an honor from you guys means a ton.
Thank you, sir. And I don't know if you saw this, but some of the fans that got a little exuberant at North Central even admitted they became Tom Perkovich and Susquehanna fans based on how you handled what happened after the loss in North Central, that you were a stand-up person, and not everybody can do that. And so just the fact of how you carried yourself, even in a loss, got people to become Tom Perkovich fans and Susquehanna River Hawks fans ultimately. So congratulations. Enjoy the off season with the family, because I know you will to a certain degree, but you're hitting that recruiting trail hard too, I know. So enjoy the balance there, and we'll talk to you next season for sure. No, it does not.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Tom Perkovich had joined us earlier this morning, and there was the interview we had with him. And one piece of housekeeping here, JB. Always remember to hit save when you make a change, and I did not do that, and you caught it. I appreciate it. I apologize to Rashawn. Let's get his name correct this time when we put it up on the screen here, because he deserves this. Rashawn Lamons, our newcomer of the year. Real quick here, I want to go through, just for anybody just joining us here, we're running a little long, we know. We figured it might go about 90 today, and it's going to. But here were our honorable mention offensive players. Tyler Echeverry, running back, University of Mount Union. Also, Aaron Severson, quarterback, St. John's University, were our honorable mentions on offense. The offensive player of the year for us was Luke Lanen, quarterback, North Central College. Then for defensive honorable mention, we had Rossi Moore, the Bandit, for University of Mount Union. And also honorable mention defense, Charlie Patterson, linebacker from Hardin-Simmons. The defensive player of the year, Robert Corey. Bobby Corey, the linebacker of Carnegie Mellon University, the defensive player of the year that we named earlier. We had co-special teams players of the year. Tyler Huddle, the kicker and punter from Trinity University of Texas, was the first one we named. And A.J. Jackson, the wide receiver, running back, and kick returner from Lake Forest College. The newcomer of the year, as corrected, Rashawn Lamons, the running back from Susquehanna University. And I think a little emotional, and probably going to hunt me down for surprising him at some point in time. Tom Perkovich, Coach of the Year from Susquehanna University. JB told him this was all my idea, so now I'm really in deep doo-doo with Perk on that one. Any last thoughts on Perk, since I didn't give you an opportunity to give final thoughts on that?
No, but, I think when you see a team go from kind of perennial conference champion to playoff contender to semifinalist and number 4 in the country, best ranking in program history, that has a lot to do with the coaching staff as much as the players. And it didn't happen overnight. Coach Burke has been at Susquehanna for a while now. I think he's coached close to 100 games, winning about 70% of those, or maybe a little better than. So this has been a long process. And, while certainly Brad Spencer, bringing a team to this third Stagg Bowl deserves credit. Like I said, we like to shine the light across Division III. There's a lot of teams in here. And when I kind of looked at it, I was like, who is it that we didn't really expect to see at this stage in the season? And the run that Susquehanna went on really surprised a lot of people, and that had a lot to do, I think, with Coach Perk's leadership and the guys he's brought into his program, like Josh Ehrlich, like Rashawn Lamons, and just the way they battled and they beat St. John's, they beat Bethel. That really says a lot to me. That's an amazing coaching job. So I think he deserved the recognition.
Also, before we leave you folks, JB and I wanted to show you what is my ballot, but ultimately he helped me with it on Sunday when we were at a dive bar in the morning to watch some NFL football. Yeah. We decided to work on my top 25, and obviously 1 and 2 were going to be a little different. And, I might have still made changes ultimately, but we kept it as is when I submitted it. It's always a little challenging because you got to look at the playoffs, then you got to also look at teams that weren't in the playoffs necessarily that were coming on hard, because to me a top 25 ballot at the end of the season especially is, as we stand here today, who would have beaten whom. And so the most immediate results, I think, are the most important ones. The ones from week 1 or week 2, maybe some meaning to them, but not as much. And so, we look at this, I go North Central Mount Union, as you expect. Johns Hopkins nearly beat Mount Union, okay? So, got to give them some stuff there. Springfield played the best against North Central, technically, aside from Mount Union. And so, they're number 4 in our book. Number 5 was Susquehanna. 6, Mary Hardin-Baylor is playing as good football as anybody in this country at the end of the season. And the fact that they gave a challenge to Hopkins deserves credit. And you'll see DePauw in 8 for the same reason. Carnegie Mellon, for what they did against Mount Union, is 7, ultimately. Yep. St. John's, good game against Susquehanna. Probably could have gone as far as Susquehanna did if they had gotten through. At number 9, Bethel, there are so many teams that needed to be just under Susquehanna, we felt. So this is no slight on Bethel. They probably could be number 6 just as easily. So 6 through 10, very close. 11, Grove City. 12, Cortland. 13, Salisbury. I know Cuffy Cakes is not going to like that, but at the same time, JB, I'm confused in some ways about Salisbury. And it wasn't a great effort against Mount Union compared to other teams that we needed to sort of, latch to Mount Union ultimately. But still a great season, and I think we're going to be hearing from them in the future as well, and they're going to use this probably as motivation for next season, just seeing this. Hope at 14, Randolph-Macon 15, Linfield 16, Wartburg 17, Hardin-Simmons 18. I wish we could have gotten them a little bit higher, but again, we had some teams that needed to be above them, we felt, in this. Endicott, Heatherston with 19. Hobart at 20, even though they didn't make the D3Football.com top 25, Hobart deserved it based on how they played against Susquehanna. It was a game at the end of the game, okay?
Yeah.
Platteville and La Crosse at 21-22, Wheaton at 23, Brockport 24, and Trinity based on, look, they went toe-to-toe with Mary Hardin-Baylor as well as anybody did in the playoffs at number 25. What are your thoughts here and compared to other things you've seen out there?
Yeah, well, I got asked, if I had my own personal ballot, how I would look at it, and I think this is kind of it. Maybe I would have bumped Springfield down a teeny bit, but like you said, I mean, who really played North Central that close other than Mount Union? So they deserve credit, and Coach Cerasulo was probably this close to being our potential Coach of the Year, but he was expected to win the NEWMAC and to get in the playoffs, and maybe they made it a little further than we thought, but with such a senior-laden team. Kind of not surprised in a way that they ended up with the season that they did, and he's been recognized, I think, by Walter Camp, which is kind of new to D3 awards, but it's been around for a long time, and was recognized, I think, by the AFCA. So, hey, I think that list, like you said, I'm not going to hold a result from week 2 or 3 when I'm looking at week 16, 17. I watch the games, I look at the matchups, I try to, kind of figure out like, all right, well, if these teams played and where there are games between similar teams, you can kind of glean from that based on tendencies and all that. So, at the end of the day, I think there's so many great memories of this season, Frank, so many fun times, but it felt really good to hear someone like Coach Perk say that we get it. And so I'll stand by that over anything. People can pick apart top 25 polls till the cows come home, but at the end of the day, I feel good about the way we view things, and it seems like there's people out there that tend to agree.
5 minutes left here for us. Let's kind of wrap things up.
Your audio just dropped.
Oh, yeah. Hold that thought. I know why.
Bring it up.
There it is. Much better now, I betcha. I should be able to talk because your audio dropped too.
Figures in the last 5 minutes.
Yeah. Well, hey, at least we caught it before it became a problem. But last 5 minutes, as I was saying, now 4 minutes. Let's wrap up this 2024 season. What's your best memory of 2024 overall, or set of memories that you can bundle into one thing?
Well, there were so many things. It's hard to try to encapsulate it into 60 seconds. We went over our 400th episode. This is like 428 or 30 or something like that, which is kind of crazy to think. The Stagg Bowl trip was a lot of fun. It was great to meet Zach and Riley. I think it's the nice thing we've seen the last couple of years is that there's some new blood in the water that are trying to get into the D3 football media space, and we really need that because you and I can't do this forever. Pat can't do this forever, and it's going to be reliant on other fans who have the passion and the interest to keep this sport out there, because honestly, it's kind of like a volunteer sort of nonprofit type of thing we do here. It's out of our own pocket, out of our own time, but we love it, and we love shedding the light on these great student athletes. And some of the comments from Coach Spencer in the post-game show, comments from Coach Perk, some of the player interactions that we've had over this and many other seasons just prove to me that this is a great thing to keep doing, and we'll keep doing it as long as we can.
And for me, look, 24 games in 24 season. We're not going to go 25 and 25. I guarantee you that right now, but we're still going to be on the road, me especially, you as well. I think you're going to have a little bit more mobility probably next year with family situations changing or whatnot for you. But, the long story short of it goes, to be, the epitome of it for me was to be at Susquehanna for the Bethel ending and to be able to provide the story as much as anybody for the players' sakes, because there was going to be controversy at the end of the game that would have mired that game if we didn't have a camera angle on the goal line, which we don't usually do, but I was realizing this might come down to this type of situation, and luckily we got the right angle and had the right view of it. And then again, as I said, the holding call as well. These are important things, I think, in the grand scheme of making sure that the narrative and the story behind Division III football is a good one and not always based on controversy, not always based on, is it an illegal shift that's converted to false start? Is it a target that should have been overturned? I mean, we end up with a lot of that stuff, and to be able to be part of something to clarify probably with the right ending at the end of the day for that game, regardless of what happened for the rest of the game. Those are the types of things that we really appreciate to be part of, why we do it ultimately. And when we're getting tired at the end of the season, to have a game like that and a moment like that rejuvenates us to get to the finish line for the Stagg Bowl ultimately, the way that we did this season. And enjoyed it immensely. Enjoyed it because you were there, JB, and Zach, and Riley, and Pat, and Keith, and Greg, and all the folks that are key players in this. And as I say, JJ Nekoloff, and JP Williams, and Sarah Harborth, and Haley, her assistant at Marathon Baylor, did a great job with this game. So many names that we could name here, but it was a great weekend. It was a great season. We're going to do more wrap-up, obviously, and turn the page basically to the 2025 season when we get to your kitchen in next month. But, for now, thank you to everybody. We had a record-breaking season in a lot of different ways, and we appreciate everything you do for us to keep us doing this. You tell us you like it. You tell us we're important in this whole scenario. We're going to keep doing it as long as we can. We keep talking. We want to get to season 20. That means 3 more years of us. Can you put up with us for that long in these faces? Well, we'll see. Until next time, which will be probably in over a month, for JB, it's Frank saying thank you again, everybody. Be safe out there. Stay healthy, and we will talk to you soon.